everyone, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to be recreating this blouse you see on the side, and you can see the one I made, which is what I'm putting on right here in the middle. I'm going to be showing you guys how to go about the cutting and sewing, so if you're interested in this, keep on watching and let us get started. To make this blouse, you will need a zipper. You will need a crepe fabric. What I have here is crepe, and I have 2 yards of it. And also you will be needing a matching lining, and you will need stay, and optionally you would also need a bias tape. That's if you want to add bones to this blouse. Now, to draft the pattern for the blouse, I already went ahead to draw out some part of it. This here is the shoulder line. From here to here, I have the chest line, which I used to get the armhole. Then from here to this line is the bust line. This is the under bust line, waistline, and hip line here. Now, if you follow my channel, you will know that this is something I do a lot, and you should definitely be able to do this already. Now, from the center of my pattern paper on the bust line, I'm going to go in by half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'll also mark it here on the other bust line. It was 3.5. Mark it on the waistline as well, and also on the hip line. And I'm going to join all these points together with a straight ruler. Next, I'm going to divide what I have on my shoulders into 2 equal halves. So I'll get the middle point here, and I'm going to be connecting it to meet the bust point. Now for the bustier, I'm going to come to the under bust line here, okay? And on the part going towards the center of my blouse, I'm going to go out by half of an inch. So on the under bust line, on the waistline, and also on the hemline. And I'm going to join all these points together with a straight ruler as well. Then on the other side of the line, I'm going to be going out by 1.25 inch. For most people who are busty, I would say use 1.5 inch, okay? So for me, it's 1.25 inch because I'm not busty at all. So I'll just use 1.25 inch here, and I'm going to go ahead and just join all the points together to give me a straight line. Now from the top of the lines here, I'll connect curves to meet the bust points. Just look at how I'm doing it with my curve and do exactly the same thing. Now the next thing is to determine the neckline, okay? It's going to be a sweetheart neckline. So from the chest line, you can go up by as many inches as you want. It all depends on how covered you want your blouse to be. So for me, I came up by 1.5 inches from the chest line, and I'm drawing a straight line across. Now this new line now becomes my neckline, okay? So now what I'm doing here is on this line here, I'm going to go out on both sides by half of an inch, and I'm just going to connect them with my curve as well to meet the bust point. So now you can see the bustier shape gradually coming to life, right? So now the next thing I want to do is to now connect my neckline. So here you can also determine how deep you want it to be. So you can let the sweetheart get to the bust line, or you can start it from the chest line. Just depends on how comfortable you are when your boobs show, okay? So for me, I decided to just arrange mine in a way that it's just like a little bit below the chest line, as you can see. So I created my sweetheart neckline from the center to the first point of my curve. Now from this second point of the curve, I'm going to just arrange my ruler in a way that it extends from here into the armhole in a way. So you can see where it meets the armhole here. So I'll just use my marker now to just trace out the remaining part of the armhole. So this is what I have. I've gone ahead to draw out the neckline. Now the next thing you will do is on this chest line, you're going to replace the darts that you have taken out. You can either take the measurement at the top, or you take it from the chest line exactly, but I decided to take it at the top. So the dart I had there was 1 inch. I replaced it from where my armhole stopped. And now coming to the waistline, I'll mark my waist measurement divided by 4. I already marked it. And now I'm taking the dart that I have here, and from this point I marked, I'll have to replace it back, okay? And now on the hemline, you mark your hip measurement divided by 4, and then measure the darts that you have here, and then also replace it back as well. So now I am going to be joining all the last points together to give me the shape of my bodice. Please notice how I'm placing my curves from the armhole down to the waist, and then how I'm placing it now from the waist down to the hip, so that you'll be able to get the body shape properly. Next, from the hemline here, I'm going to go up by about 2.5 inches or 3 inches. It depends on how curvy you want the shape of the blouse to be. So I decided to do 2.5 inches from the hemline. I marked 2.5 inches up, and from this point I'm going to just connect a curve to meet the other leg of my dart like this. So this is going to give me that shape that you see on the blouse, and all these areas I'm marking are my darts that are now going to be cut off. So this is the center front, it's going in this direction. This is the side front going in this direction. These are the waists. And yeah, that's basically all for the drafting of this blouse. I will just go ahead now and cut it out, and please make sure to look at the area I'm cutting out so that you know how to do it exactly. So guys, I'm done with the front now. So to use it to draft out the back, I'm going to place it like this. Just make sure that the ends are exactly meeting each other, not one on top of each other at the end. And just go ahead and tape it down like I've done. Don't tape the bustier area, just the straight ends. So once you've taped it down, we're going to now use this to draft out the back. So for the back, I drew a line across here. This is for my zipper allowance. It is 1.5 inch from the center of the pattern paper. So now I'm placing the center front exactly on that line that I drew, and I'm going ahead to pin it in place. After pinning this down, you're going to check out this waist. This is the waist. So on this waist line here, go ahead and extend what you have, the straight line, into the zipper allowance. And for every other part, from the zipper allowance extension, go ahead and just begin to trace the front into the new pattern paper, just like you see me doing like this. It's actually very simple. Just use your curve to try and arrange everything. So I have just traced down the end. Now I'm tracing the sides, and that's basically all. So you are going to stop on the side. So once you're through with this, go ahead and remove all your pins, and then remove the front pattern paper. So you see what you have here. So from this side point, you can now connect from this side to the center to get your neckline, just like I've done. So on this extension that you had on the waist, come in by 1/2 inch. This is going to prevent the zipper of this blouse from bulging at the back. And from this 1/2 inch point, just connect, just like I'm doing like this, to the neckline and to the end of the blouse. So with this, you are done with the cutting out of this back pattern. It's actually very simple when you do it like this, because that way you prevent yourself from having to draft a whole pattern again. So just go ahead and cut it out like you see me doing like this. So now for the front pattern that we taped earlier, I'm just going to go ahead and cut it off. If I try to remove the tape now, it's going to actually destroy the pattern. So I'll just cut it off. It's just a straight part that was taped down in the first place. So I get my full pattern back, and this is the front and the back patterns. So we're going to use this to draft on our fabric. So this is the crepe fabric I showed you guys earlier, but the only difference now is that I have already ironed hairstay to it. This is something I decided to start doing now because I noticed that it just prevents me from all the stress of having to iron hairstay to every single piece when I am done cutting it out. So now for the center front piece, I am going to place it not exactly on this folded edge. That's because this blouse that we're trying to recreate, there was a cut in the middle. So I'm going to shift my pattern paper, my center front pattern paper, by 1/2 inch away from the fabric here. And then I'll place the other one, make sure there's space in between them. That's the side front. And then lastly, I'll place the back pattern, just like you see me doing like this. And of course, I'm going to start cutting this out. So I already have 1/2 inch at the center front. So I'm going to give 1/2 inch to all the other sides. You can decide to mark this out before you start cutting, but I feel like this is something I can do even without having to mark it out. So I'm just cutting this out on the center front. As you can see, all the way around the center front, I used 1/2 inch. Now for the side front, notice I'm using 1/2 inch on all these sides. Now for the side, the area that is going to be the side of the blouse, I am going to be using about 1.5 inch. This is just because it's the side, and sometimes you might want to be able to work on your blouse later if you feel like it's too tight. So I am using 1.25 inch here. You can use 1.5 inch, or you can use 1 inch. So that's just the difference. Now for the other one as well, I'm doing the exact same thing. Use 1.25 inch on the side, and for every other part it was just 1/2 inch. So I'm just marking this upper part so I know the upper part of the back pattern. So this is all for the drafting out of all the back patterns. I also went ahead to place all of them on my lining, and for my lining I also decided to iron hairstay on it before cutting out. So I went ahead to cut out everything on the lining. So now we are going to start sewing. So I'm going to remove my pins from the center front piece. This is the one we will start from. Okay, so this is what my center front looks like. I'm removing the lining. So when you bring out your center front, you see that there's an opening at the center. So you're going to have to join it back again. It's just a design. It's nothing special. You can decide not to give it that opening as actually. So I've pinned it down now at the center here, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to add the side front. So I'll remove the lining pieces as well, and I'm going to just place them the way they are supposed to be, which is like this, and I'm going to go ahead and pin down each piece as well. So just pin it from the upper part here and then start taking it all the way to the end. It's actually very simple. So this is it for this side. As you can see, I've pinned it down now, and I'm going to do the exact same thing for this other part as well. So guys, everything is all pinned down now, so I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch down the areas that I've pinned down here, so just with about 1/2 inch stitching allowance. So guys, this is what I had after I was done stitching it down. So I'm going to go ahead now and iron out everything. I have this tailor's hem that I made by myself. It's going to be for the bustier area, and every other part will be ironed straight. So guys, everything is ironed out now. You can see what it's looking like. So now we're going to bring the back pattern. I'm going to remove all the pins, and I will remove the lining as well. So this is what I had. So I'm going to go ahead and place them together right sides on the sides, and I'm going to pin down the sides. So after pinning down the sides, this is what I have. So now I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and stitch down the sides, making sure to use my body measurements. After I was done, I decided to go ahead and cut off the excess allowances. These allowances, you can decide to leave them inside if in case you want to be able to come back later and work on your blouse if you feel like it's too tight. So after cutting off the allowances, I am going ahead, as you can see, to iron out everything nice and clean. And I went ahead to also stitch down my lining just like I've done for the blouse itself. So now before we join the main fabric and the lining together, we need to attach the sleeves. So from the center of my neckline here, I decided to come out by 6 inches and mark it here. And then I'm doing the same thing from this other part of the neckline. I'm marking 6 inches here. So this is where my sleeves will start from. Now for the sleeves, these are the fabrics I've cut out for the sleeves. I'm going to explain how I came about the length. So my shoulder to under bust is 12.5 inches. So I placed 12.5 inches here on my under bust and measured up. So from the top of my tape to where my neckline started is 6. Now this 6 inches is going to be the length of my sleeve. So 6 times 2 is 12, right? For front and back of my sleeve. So now I decided to cut out the length of this sleeve piece with 13 inches so that the extra 1 inch will be for stitching allowance. I'm going to be folding it on both sides. Now for the width of the sleeve, I cut it out with 9 inches and it's in a fold. We're going to be placing this on our sleeve, and how we are going to do it is you're going to pin the sleeve, one part of it, to the areas that I marked earlier, and you do the same thing on this other side. So just pin it to the area I marked. So now I am going to head over to the sewing machine and pleat this fabric, this sleeve fabric, pleat it very well, very closely onto this area like this, and stitch it down. So I'll do the same thing for this other side as well, and then I'll show you guys. So this is what I meant. So I pleated it here and left about 1/2 inch away from where the joining of the side is. So now for the back, I'll also leave 1/2 inch away as well from the joining of the side and pin it down. So look at how I pinned it down. So I took it like this. So take it like this and turn it around and pin it down here. So now from this point, I'm going to also just pleats on the sewing machine like this to now secure it in place. So I'll just try and see if I can hold this with my pin so that you guys understand. So I'm pleating this area. When you're done, you're going to have the sleeve looking something like this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pleat these areas too on the sewing machine, and I'll of course do the same thing on this other side as well. So guys, it's all stitched down now, and this is what it looks like. So when I open up everything, you can see what I have on both sides, okay? So now the next thing I'm going to do before we join the lining still is to place ready-made cups on the inside so that the bustier area will not be looking too flat. So the cup size that I'm using is 32. My bust measurement is 33, so this would work perfectly as there's no cup 33. I could have either gotten 32 or 34. So I decided to go for the smaller one since I'm not very busty. So I'm going ahead now to pin this all the way around the curved area of my blouse. You will notice that it's actually fitting in perfectly because there's a space for bustier on the blouse. So I pin it down now, and what I want to go ahead and do is to use my needle and thread to just stitch it down. So I'm going to be stitching this only to the allowances that I have. So the stitching allowances, all the joining allowances, I'll just go ahead and stitch this on it. Make sure that the stitch you are making is not going to show over in front. So after I was done tacking this in place, this is what I had, and this is what the front is looking like. When you wear it, it's going to actually look better than it's looking right now. So now we can now cover up everything with our lining. So I'm placing them right sides facing each other, and I'm going ahead to pin from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and pin the rest of the neckline like this. So this is what I had after I was done pinning it down. Okay, make sure the sleeves and everything is inside. And then for the bottom part of the blouse as well, I'm going to go ahead and pin down everything as well. So you want to make sure that everything is well aligned when you're pinning it down, like you see I've done here. So now we'll stitch down the neckline, and we're also going to be stitching down this end. We're also going to be stitching down the sides as well. That's the zipper allowance area. So just go ahead and pin it down. So I'll stitch this area down fully. Now for the other side, I'm going to just mark a point where I'll stop my stitch. So I'm just going to stitch from here to here so that the other space I have will be for me to be able to turn this blouse over when I'm done. So I'm done making all my stitches. I'm just going ahead now to just trim off all the excesses that I had around the allowances, and then make notches all the way around the neckline like you see me doing like this. And now I'll go ahead and turn everything over through the opening space that I left earlier. So just go ahead and turn everything over like you see me doing like this. So continue to like turn everything, make sure everything is coming out nicely, and we are going to go ahead and iron this out. If you've turned out your blouse like this, it's going to look very funny, so it is compulsory and you must iron it out. So for the bustier area, I decided to add my hem gum inside it so that when I iron it out, it's going to gum together and prevent the lining from actually coming up in front when I put on this blouse. So I'm just placing it on the neckline exactly from the inside, and I'm going ahead to iron this out. If you've tried this before, you will understand what I'm saying. You will not have any problem of your lining coming up in front at all. So I have placed it underneath on the neckline, and I'm just going ahead to iron it out from the front and back, and you can see what I have looking all neat, and the lining is not going to show in front. Once you're through with that, you're just going to go ahead and iron out the rest of the body nice and clean, both the front and the back, the sleeve and everything. And this is what I had after I was done. So now I'm going to have to now close up this area that I left for me to turn this over to the front. So I pinned it down, and I'm going to just make a top stitch to stitch this area down. And then lastly, I'm going to fix a zipper to the back of this blouse. You want to make sure to use a zipper that can open up into two so that this blouse will be easy for you to put on. So after I was done fixing my zipper, this is what I had, and this is what the sleeve is looking like, and this is what the front is looking like. Everything is so simple and nice. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next one.